Periventricular Leukomalacia, PVL. Yes, it's a cause of CP. Why? Because it's a brain bleed, usually during birth trauma, that affects the baby's cranial growth, cranial movements, structure, and abnormalities within the cranial structure are usually definition of cerebral palsy. It used to be birth trauma, but now it's anything under usually age 5 and under for getting a diagnosis of cerebral palsy. However, guys, I love you, but you have to understand how any diagnosis affects movement. And that's how I answer. To just tell someone to go do something and whatever to do for it, you have not evaluated that child. You have not seen that child. There's no video with the post. So you just can't farm out. Okay, first of all, you have to understand the PVL, the significance and what it's doing to it. Is it going to affect the vision? Because if it's apparent, let's say right side trauma, left side, which is going to affect vision, right? Any child that has a PVL, ophthalmologist, but also orthopedist, depending on the age of the child. I want hip x-rays. If you have a neuromuscular condition, you need to see where those hips are going. How long has that child been in the NICU? Were they premature? All these go hand in hand. That's why I'm coming, or I've just written it up. It's in the reflex course, a birth deviation charts and so forth. So people can start looking at, well, okay, I'm here, as far as what do I do for my child. But I now want you to understand really what a PVL means into the human system. I've covered this before. I do cranial trainings. This would be head and suture trainings, but I really want you to understand what that means. So, welcome to my lab. Bring this down just a little bit. So, to understanding the human brain opposes gravity because it's a living organism. Any biological matter opposes gravity. So if we look at my plant, which I'm now about to make the room all dirty again, but when you look at my plant, no matter what I do with it, it wants to oppose gravity. There's nowhere I can put this plant into a level that it wants to fall. Now, what does want to fall? The dirt out of it, because this is not a living organism and that wants to succumb to gravity. This plant does not. This is how we work as biology. If you want more information on that, my book, How to Get to Mars, You Can't Get to Mars Without Me, 21 Theories of Biological Gravity. Matter of fact, I just had a Zoom this morning and the child just basically changed right before our eyes. And the dad was like, what just happened and why is it that quick and simple? And this is what I was going after. Is first of all, this plant is structured for rotation. It's a very slow-based rotation, but you can see this in any kind of slow-mo, and you'll see to oppose gravity, you have to have rotation. This is what NASA is missing in outer space, and they can't grow anything past a radish because there's no rotation in the space station, and they're not getting plant life. People have got to start practicing my theories. But that being said, like I said, what's falling is the dirt out of it. It's not a living organism, and if I dump this out, the dirt would fall, but not the plant. It's not organized to fall. Now, if I drop the plant will fall, and it will fall at the same rate as this guy, if I did that. But it's not organized to fall, and we're not either. However, when you have a PVL, and this is where, again, we'll use Mr. Hedgehog. And so when I'm working with cranial movements, when I'm doing water bowl techniques, right, there's an evenness to the brain, no matter what. So if I feel a heavy head or something like this, but that heaviness could also be a PVL. Death can occur in spinal fluid and not have to be removed. And so when you have the death of the brain matter due to the PVL, nobody's going to take that out. So now we have weight differential. No difference in an unbalanced tire. So let's say I have a PVL here, and I'm just going to take out these three guys. Now, if we measured this, you could clearly show me that the weight is off, right? So when I'm doing and working with a child, and this is what you're not going to get with all modalities, because the most modalities don't teach this. They teach that muscles create movement due to the brain damages. Change the brain, change the body. No, you change the movement, you change the brain. So when you're going after that, so you have to look at it. Now another way of looking at that, if I took out all my little pegs after Mr. Hedgehog and just left him over here, this is maybe a better way of looking at it. See, no matter what, Mr. Hedgehog will be heavier on this side, right? So every movement the child makes, these pegs, the PVL, are going to want to succumb to gravity. Right? You want, again, Mr. Plant, you want opposition to gravity. So when you're looking at that, that's what makes the difference of a PVL. Actually, I could do this too. I'm just trying to think. I just have some really just stupid. This hair clip is just this tiny, right? But I'm going to put it on Mr. Plant. When I move my plant now, now you can see just that little clip wants to create, see the difference? That just from that little clip wants to succumb to gravity. Don't believe me? I'll take this guy off. Sorry to damage you, Mr. Plant. And again, see, there's no fall. No bounce, no fall. Even if I go like this is where boughs don't break. They go in the wind. Right? But again, if I go in here and I'm going to just put this little clip here, and this is why I don't like hospital monitors, right? It changes the movement organization within that plant. The plant now wants to bounce. It wants to fall, right? I can feel that weight of just, again, guys, this little clip. It's like having a ladybug on there. And it will affect movement, right? That's scar tissue. That's a PVL. That's a whole... So again, for when you're working with, and this is where I teach the water bowl technique. So even though Mr. Hedgehog is heavier over here, has that PVL, you want to work with it and start doing your techniques that I'm teaching you as if the PVL is not there. So in other words, that Mr. Hedgehog isn't trying to get up this way, right? They're coming up this way, right? And that's where you get functional movement. You can feel a PVL quite easily. You know, you mean it just doesn't take a real sophisticated hand. And you can be with your child, but you really want to adapt any kind of movement conversations as if that PVL, in a sense, doesn't exist. You will see kids with shunts respond the same way. Any kind of intubation, even though the intubation's gone, you will start to see this bob, this heaviness. No difference than me putting just this little clip onto a plant. It doesn't take much of a PVL to affect movement. However, it does take a little bit of understanding for you to understand how to get your child to move. And that's the whole objective of this, of movement lesson and what we're doing. It's do you want just movement, static pose, rote movements, or do you want functional movements? To get functional movements, you really just, especially if you have an unusual situation, you have to add this into your life. Otherwise, you're just going to get frustrated and I hate to say it, come back 6 years from now. But you really need to look at that. Yes, I have amazing cranial courses. I have the head and the sutures, comes with 5 books. I then have the nasal, ear, and in the sinuses course, which I practice because my son's about to have the surgery. And then now I have to really start cranking on the palate course, finish up a couple other things first, like the reflexes, but seriously, because I just have them on my plate and training is going to start September 1st, so I better get it done. But seriously, when you're working with a child with the PVL, and it all depends too where we are within suture formation, and the milestones and where we're solidifying all this. Is the PVL really great? You can see these things in my son's. He didn't have the PVL, but he had the infection, and you clearly can see just the cranium changes. Are we dealing with a flat head on top of that? There's lots of things, and you might go, Michelle, that's too much. I get it, but just feel the movement. Just feel the movement, and that is really important. And just enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy creating ease of movement in your child, and then go from there. There's lots of other things that can be a part of your life. I get it, but you're here to understand a PVL, and that's how it is and affects movement. Thanks, guys.